When I was a senior in high school, I had my first girlfriend, Amanda, and this was a big deal for me because it was that first time you fall in love where you're like, oh, there is someone for me. You know, this is it. Like I found her. And she was great. She was so beautiful, and she played tennis, and she wrote for the newspaper, and she was a bad girl. And I was a kind of dorky nerd, kind of an outcast. This was at a boarding school that I didn't board at. I was only there because my family lived nearby. And she had major street cred. She had been expelled from her previous school for dealing acid. I remember at one point she said it was totally messed up because it was actually this other girl who was dealing acid and I was framed. And I was like, awesome. I thought it was one of those things where we were opposites and we knew it, and that made it more exciting. Like where she wanted to be a writer and in student government, and I wanted to know what it was like to be cool. Well, I find that when you fall in love, you tend to overlook certain red flags. One of them was that she was a liar. And I don't mean that in an offensive way. At boarding school, lying is something of a way of life. I remember there was this one guy in my class, he was a legendary liar. His name was Keith Robbins, and he used to lick his fingers like a bookie. He would go, yeah, nice. And he would lie about things that weren't important. Like, he'd be like, yeah, nice. My uncle's Tony Robbins, motivational speaker. Yeah, nice. And I found out later that that wasn't even true, but even if it were, it wouldn't be that impressive, you know. So you didn't bother protesting it. You just go, oh, okay, Keith, you know. The other red flag was that Amanda used to say really mean stuff to me, and then she'd say, only kidding. She'd be like, you're not good at anything. Only kidding. Nobody likes you at all. Only kidding. The final red flag was that she told me not to tell anyone she was my girlfriend. She had another boyfriend at home that she was in the process of breaking up with, and it was over, but if it got back to him, you know, it'd be bad. So she would go home every weekend and visit him, and at one point she said she had to go home more frequently because his parents were sick. So she had to console him in that, and I thought, well, you know, the guy's parents are dying, so I had to be understanding. I also put up with it because I couldn't believe how lucky I was just to be with her. Like, in retrospect, I understand how selfish she was, but at the time I didn't know that. When you're in a relationship with someone who's selfish, what keeps you in it is the fact that when they shine on you, it's like this souped-up shine. And you feel like you're in the club, and you don't even know what the club is. You know you want to stay in it. We'd been going out 2 months, and we went on Christmas break, and she invited me to meet her parents in New Hampshire. And this was very exciting. This was going to be my big moment. It would vindicate me and legitimize me as the main boyfriend. And so I drive my mom's Volvo station wagon from Massachusetts to New Hampshire. And I meet her parents, and it's going really well. And then this guy shows up. And his name is Scott. And then the three of us are hanging out. And it dawns on me that I'm hanging out with my girlfriend's boyfriend. And it's going okay. He seemed like a good guy. He was an all-state wrestler, but and he was remarkably nice. I could totally see what she saw in him. And there was some consolation because every time he would go to the bathroom or go into the other room, she would be very affectionate towards me. She'd kiss my neck or say something in her sweet voice. But then there was a moment where I was in the bathroom. And I thought, what's happening in the other room? The day took a strange turn when Scott suggests that we go hang out at his house. And so we go, and I meet his parents. And it's a very strange thing, meeting your girlfriend's boyfriend's parents for the first time. part of you is angry for obvious reasons, and then part of you still wants to make a good impression. As a side note, they seemed in perfect health. I drive home defeated, and I sort of knew that at this point this was her life, and I was like her secret life, like on Maury Povich. So I was like, this is it. I'm going to stick up for myself. It's either him or me. And I convinced myself that given that choice, she would go with me because what we had was so special. So when we got back to school, I called her and I said, we need to talk. Let's meet at the hockey game. And she says, great. And so I go to the hockey game, and she's not there. Hockey game ends, still no sign. I had that pit in my stomach, like this was going to be my moment, and I was going to tell her that she had to pick me, or that's it. And so I start walking around the school, to the library, to the cafeteria, the places she might be, and I ask people where she is, and finally someone says, I saw her with Keith Robbins down at the tennis courts. I remembered earlier that day at lunch, Keith had said to me, I'm sleeping with your girlfriend, you know that, right? And I thought, well, first of all, I hadn't even slept with my girlfriend, so that would be insane. And second of all, he's a liar, so he must be lying. I remember I said to him, yeah, I know. But at this moment, it dawns on me that Keith was her new second boyfriend, and I was done. And it was that horrible, lonely feeling where you're walking around someplace and there are people all around, and there's only one person you want to be with, no matter how mean they've been to you. I just wanted to hear that only kiddin'. I remember people were coming up to me, and I couldn't even hear them. I couldn't even tell them what had happened, because even though I was being dropped, the relationship itself was based on a secret. And that spring I graduated. Keith was expelled for making fake IDs in his dorm room. He had built a life-sized license from Arkansas that people stuck their face in. And he would photo it and then laminate it. He later took a job at Goldman Sachs. That detail seems made up. It's actually true. And Amanda was expelled the next year for dealing Ritalin. At boarding school, you can't go to the graduation if you're expelled. It's one of the shames of being expelled, and it's very strict. And I found out later that Amanda actually did show up to the graduation in a disguise. She wore a wig and sunglasses. My friends laughed about this, the way the friends do to make you feel better when you've had your heart broken. But I could relate to her doing that, because sometimes when you want to be in a place so badly, you'll do anything.